Productions, the Cultural Preservation Station. Tune in. Tune in. Hey yo. Black education, cultural preservation, tailored BEETV, but cause elevation. Tune into the station, we rockin' the whole nation. That's right, we rockin' the whole nation, prepping new generation for mental activation. Tailored BEETV's the new sensation. Stop the hesitation and learn something new. My girl Taylor B's here to show and prove. Terrorist shit.
Peace and love, peace and love. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to BEETV Productions. I'm Teller B. This is B.E.E.C.A.U.S.E, where Black education empowers, creating all unity, saving everything. If we don't, who will? Tonight's episode is the healthcare disparity in the United States, obviously as it pertains to race. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get our panel on live. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight, so give me one moment. Let me get everybody on. You know, we always have a little background, a lot of things going on in the background here. So let me get Rob on the screen. And so Karama-isms is I think she's having some technical difficulties right now. So we're going to wait for her to join and get on the screen. But let me go ahead and introduce our first panelist, R.A. Blackstorm. He's hailing from Brooklyn, New York. He's our brother, critical thinker, master manifestor, and spiritual orator extraordinaire. Welcome, Rob. Thank you so much for being here. Talk to the people and say good evening to the people.
Good evening to the people. Happy Easter, Ishtar. Hathor, Het Harut Day. Let's go, BEETV. Let's go.
Let's get it. We got a lot to do. So it looks like, okay, my sister's on the screen. So let's hope everything's going okay with her broadcast. Karama-isms, a professional spoken word artist, an advocate of women's empowerment. Let's welcome my sister queen, Karama-isms, from all the way hailing from the West Coast, Washington State. What's up, man? Uh-oh.
Why, Lynn? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you great.
That's me. I'm here. Hi.
Hi. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. I know it's a holiday, so thank you for being available to do the panel tonight. Actually, we all agreed to do this day, but it is a holiday, so nonetheless, but we got our next panelist. He's just joined the broadcast. Let's bring him on the screen and let's introduce him. This is our brother Live Star. He's an actor. He's a independent artist with his own music group, Pure Vision Music, hailing from the Bronx, New York. Welcome, our brother Live Star. Peace, bro. Say what's up to the people tonight.
Peace, peace. How everybody doing?
We're good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I can't complain.
Good. So thank you guys, like I was just saying a minute ago, for being here for the holiday. So tonight we have a lot to discuss. So tonight we're discussing the history of systemic racism and the disparate treatment of Black Americans. So we know systemic racism is something that continues to plague our country, affecting all areas of our lives. So we're going to chop this up and get right into it. We're going to look at the history of the mistreatment to the continued mistreatment, and look at a couple of different things in between, and get the panel's feedback on what they think. So I want to go ahead and just start this off by saying one of the things that I found a lot when I was researching this topic was one of the things that play a major role in this is the implicit bias. So I wanted to go ahead and take a look at implicit bias and just give the definition for it, because it's going to be a lot of the framework that leads our discussion tonight. So implicit bias means a form of bias that occurs automatically and unintentionally that nevertheless affects judgments and decisions and behaviors. So we can imagine how implicit bias plays a role in the healthcare industry. So we're going to go ahead and let me get this slide up on the screen so we can go ahead and start the history. We're going to start with the origins. And then we're going to move, into like the 19th and 20th centuries and look at some of the different policies and ideologies that have really shaped the mindset and the framework of the healthcare community. So let me go ahead and get this up here. Actually, my banner. Okay. So here we go. So real quick, I took us off the screen. So what should be shown on the screen now is the medical mistreatment timeline. So we're looking at the 16th century. Obviously, we know that's when we were captured from the west coast of Africa, tortured, transported, and brought to the United States with no medical treatment given. Actually, we were tortured on the way over. So that's really the inception of this. That's the origin of it. Really, is what we'll call the origin. What we're going to look at, and then I want to go right into the early 19th century. There's a guy named Samuel George Morton. He was a physician in the early 19th century, and he published this book called Crania Americana, or Comparative View of the Skulls of Various Aboriginal Nations of North and South America. So this guy really, what they say, he laid the framework down. Experts contend that his work provided the foundation of scientific racism. So in this book, he proclaimed that black people had smaller skulls than white people, thus smaller brains, thus we were inferior. So this is actually what kind of laid the groundwork for, I'll say in medical terms, mistreatment of our people. So I wanted you guys to weigh in on that and weigh in on some of the work that he looked at. It obviously looked at the study of phrenology, and how that our skull size might impact our behavior traits.
This is sounding like some eugenics type stuff, right? Margaret
Yeah.
Sanger-ish, when they were saying the size of our brain, making it, what were they, equating us to monkeys, animals. Our brains were, and we were feeble minded, right? Um, it's interesting because how I see it is they take something and someone that they're not familiar with, that they may have some fear, that there's a lot of ignorance about, right? And so when you have that, you often create your own, even, and when I say that, people do it now. We do it now. We create our own conclusions, we create our own reality or idea based on what the person, place, or thing is that is different from us, that's intimidating to us. And I think that that's what occurred. We were intimidating, glorious, beautiful, and so they had to dumb us down. Like sometimes I would dumb myself down in school for friends, or when people dumb themselves down for relationships or what, so that they could get smart. I think it was kind of the thing, they wanted to dumb us down so that they could show some superiority.
Absolutely, sis. Anybody else want to weigh in on that portion of the history of the foundational groundwork for scientific racism in healthcare?
Yeah, good book just on scientific activities, scientific mistreatment. This is Medical Apartheid by Harriet A. Washington. And this book details a lot of these modern day companies still in existence that are still practicing this medical, as it says, medical apartheid, and using the justification of things like phrenology, as we were talking about. Also, one that a lot of people don't talk about is drapetomania. And drapetomania is basically saying that the runaway, a prisoner of war, aka the runaway slave, was crazy, right? There was a psychological misfortune that caused the slave who was being oppressed to run away, and they justified it, using medical terms. So these labels and these things that they place on people, You know, they use it to kind of put you in a box and a framework that allows people to see you from the perspective that they want to see you from. So this is something, a eugenic program, Margaret Sanger, as Karama was talking about, that, you know, has been ongoing. And even now, well, I don't know if I'm jumping, but, you know, they just pledged 200, the Facebook owner's wife just pledged, I believe it's Facebook owner's wife or Jeff Bezos, one of their wives, but just pledged 275 million to Planned Parenthood. So that's a form of eugenics in itself that people don't really realize, you know, how that's tied to the Gates Foundation and Bill Gates' father, and how that's tied to, you know, Gloria Steinem and all those things. But it's really just another form of eugenics to stop our population growth. So, yeah, modern day eugenics.
Yeah, modern day. And I love that you brought that book up, Rob. Thank you so much, because that was actually one of the books that I kind of flipped through to get some of my information from my sources for tonight. So thank you so much for bringing that up. What I want to do real quick before we get Live Star's viewpoint, because you know, I know you guys are on point and on top of all this, so I knew you guys were going to jump and all that. So what I want to do is I want to kind of bring the rest of the 19th century into the conversation, since it involves the sterilization and the eugenics, so we can kind of put it all together, because I mean, it all coincides. So let me read a couple of more interesting milestones and facts about some of the history, and then Livestar will get your reaction, okay? So we already talked about Samuel George Morton and his work with phrenology that laid the scientific groundwork for racism in healthcare. Going into the mid 1800s, I know this is something Karama will be near and dear to her heart. The surgeon James Marion Sims, he became known as the father of modern gynecology. He created his technique by operating and experimenting on enslaved Black women, without using any type of anesthesia, without their consent. So that happened in the mid 1800s. Let's push a little bit further into like the late 19th century, where the Civil War was upon us. And we know in the Civil War, there were separate wards for Black soldiers. Often those wards were understaffed, with undersupplied, and Black soldiers died at a rate 2 times more than white soldiers did. So that kind of rounded up the 19th century. And then we get into the early 20th century in 1913, where sterilization laws begin to be passed. They actually started passing sterilization laws. So let's stop there, and then we're going to go ahead and let Livestar give his input, and then we'll go ahead and further through the timeline. And go ahead, Livestar, while you're talking. I'm going to bring the timeline up so people can take a look at that.
No, I'm not gonna get too deep in it. They pretty much tested that. Basically, I agree with what they were saying about that. Basically, that's what they do. All the pain and suffering we done been through at the cause of them. So to let them diagnose us with something they had a part of, 90% something they did is crazy from the start. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. But I pretty much agree with y'all. That sums it up.
Oh, so let me real quick. I want to get into this implicit bias a little bit. I'm going to show a quick clip. It's about almost 2 minutes. It's like 2.5 minutes or something. But I think it really speaks toward implicit bias. So I want to show the clip real quick. And then we can come back and discuss it. Let me go ahead and so I'll show the clip, and then when we come back, we're going to get into Margaret Sanger and some of the things that she did, and give into the discussion of Planned Parenthood, because I feel like that's one of them that's really, I mean, all of this stuff still affects us today, but that one really is cemented in the foundation of our community. It's really cemented in the foundation of it, and we're really targeted by that. And it's one of the main things that they use for population control for our people. So we're going to get into that. Let me cue the video up. Give me one moment.
Excuse me.
is that racism itself makes human beings sick. We're all subject to stress, and we're all the victims of the effects of chronic stress. But for minorities, and especially for people of color, that stress is added and unrelenting. Now, if you have that as a chronic stressor, that's going to lead to a variety of medical conditions. It's going to lead to hypertension. It's going to lead to cardiovascular disease. It's going to predispose you to stroke.
For every 100,000 African Americans, 208 die from heart disease. Whereas for every 100,000 white Americans, only 169 die. African Americans are 23% more likely to die from heart disease than a white person.
Allostatic load. That is the cumulative effect of stress on the body that leads to higher cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hypertension, cancer. All of these disease states are impacting this particular community, the Black community, disproportionately. And it's definitely related to ability to recognize the concerns that are being raised by these patients and having them taken as seriously as our white patients.
Had injured my knee, and I come into the exam room with the doctor, and he comes in and he never looks at me. He just looks at my knee and sort of has me stand up and down, and then says, "You're okay," and kind of is going to shuttle me away. And so I mentioned to him that I'm a doctor, and then suddenly he looks at me and his eyes kind of light up, and he looks at my knee, he starts to talk to me, and so he really engages in this sort of doctor-patient exchange the way that it should have been from the beginning. And it was a really vivid illustration of how differently, I can perceive.
Given access to care, is there a difference in the quality of care received? And we found absolutely yes. There was a striking difference. I truly think that most medical doctors go to work and other healthcare providers and try to do their best for their patients. If that's true, then there's a conundrum here. How is it possible with people with good intentions seeking to do their best can nonetheless, at the aggregate level, create a pattern of care that is so discriminatory? Our answer was implicit bias.
It is not acceptable that in disease after disease, whether it's cancer, heart disease, or any other, the African American community fares far worse than the white community.
We can save lives and stop racial injustice in healthcare by passing the Health Equity and Accountability Act.
Okay, so the rest of that was the rest of Bernie's campaign. So we're not going to watch the rest of that because that was old, and we're not going to campaign for him right now. But I wanted to get you guys' initial reaction off of that video. So whoever wants to go ahead and go first, go ahead and chime in. And you know what? Before you chime in, let me just mention something else about implicit bias before we chime in here, and about the representation that we have. Here, one second. Because I want to make it clear that we have no representation right now. We make up about 9% African American doctors. We make up about 9% of the medical population as physicians. So representation matters. Can't find that one thing I had. So does anybody want to go ahead and chime in on the implicit bias? Go ahead, Lifestar.
I want to say something about what you just said about we make up what you just said. We make up what, 3% of the doctor?
9%.
9% of the doctor.
9% for physicians and 15% for nurse practitioners.
But see, okay, if we looking at it from their standpoint in their system, then a doctor is not okay. What they go to school for to become a doctor is not a way of teaching health. It's just a way of treating something. It's not curing it. See, a healer is going to cure you for you won't have to come back with that same illness no more. So a doctor nowadays, to me, even though they have the credentials, they're not really curing nobody. They just setting you up for you to come back. for you can keep coming back, for they can diagnose you with the medication that's being made in the labs. So I think it's not a bad thing that we do make up 90% of the doctors from their standpoint, because it's not like our doctors, if they, whatever color they is, you know, African American, it's not like they telling you to, it's not like they telling, when you catch a headache, they ain't telling you, okay, go put a dab of ginger and some lemon or key lime and some tea in there and drinking and out, you know what, blah, 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 to go away. They sending you to go to the pharmacy or over the counter to get them Tylenol or ibuprofen. That just don't have nothing to do with color. It just has to do with the protocol they was taught systematically as going to school. So me personally, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think we do need more healers. You know, I think the percentage of healers within colored people, I think it's on a higher scale. You know what I'm saying? It's on a higher scale, but then that would never be broadcast, because then it goes back to you cutting my money out. If I can cure you from this and they just want to treat it, then, you know, that's where the conflict come in at. That's all I wanted to say.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to chime in on that topic?
Well, I think that implicit bias is kind of a natural thing when you get things passed down from one generation to another, belief systems. That's what's going to happen. And then I hate to be her, but I'm going to be her. I've been her plenty of times. When you have things where we get put broadcast on national stages for whatnot, and then they're like, and there you have it. Here's your perfect example is how these Negroes act or whatnot. So then they have these things that reinforce, they have these experiences that reinforce these implicit bias or prejudice or stereotypes that they've heard about. Right. And so then they go into these places. My understanding is they're still teaching that we have a higher pain threshold. That's in medical books. Right. And then to tell what brother was saying about what the medical field, because they're not naturopathic doctors. They're not NDs. They're medical doctors. So they're not gonna, unless they're into and hip with certain types of things. I have a sister friend who struggles with lupus. She has an African doctor finally, and she was telling the doctor that she has a friend who makes elderberry syrup. That's me. And you know, should she take it? And the doctor, yes, please take that. Oh, and sea moss too? Yes. Oh my God, you have that's good. But that's because the doctor's on that. Right? What we fail to realize is these medical representatives and pharmaceutical representatives who go into these doctors' office. The doctor has a pen that says Resparterol or whatever medication that if you give this out to this many people, we'll give you a $30,000 loan, or we'll give you a $30,000 bonus. We don't realize that while they're pushing and pressing and prescribing certain meds on us or giving us samples. I had a doctor literally give me a sample of a certain type of fish oil, right? When they give that, they're getting these incentives. And I wanted to touch on the book Medical Apartheid. I made attempts in 2016, 2013, 2014 to read that book. I always closed it and returned it back to the library in complete tears, crying. Like I was on the bus once, I closed it because I knew it was going to take me and be going and look at these doctors like, now let me tell you something. So I had to stop reading the book because of how it was affecting me. Because it's horrible when you go to the doctor with your elder grandmother, yourself, your child, and the doctors tell you you don't know what you're talking about, or that doesn't make sense, or I am a doctor. Yeah, but you go off of guesses and hypotheses. Don't play with me, sir. Yes, I've said that out loud to them. And I've had a doctor. I'm glad you were up on that and that you knew what you were talking about. Good thing we caught it in time type of things, because I'm like, yeah, you can't tell me. My son, for example, he had a thing called Perthes disease with this bone, like the part of your hip bone, it's supposed to look like this or something. And his was flat and he was having all this pain when he was 3. You're not supposed to have that until you're like 6 or something. So I caught it at 3 and I said, no, I have a history of hip issues in my family. So if you wouldn't mind sending us to somebody, because see, you're a pediatrician, right? If you could send me to somebody who's well versed, and when we came back, that was a really good thing for you. And I'm just looking at him like, I know, white man, what I'm talking about, because I pay attention to our bodies. So we have to start visiting the 9% of the doctors in our towns that look like us. I had a black gynecologist. She retires on the 22nd. I'm all messed up. Right. I'm like, well, wait, lady, what are you doing?
You found she's going? Oh no, that's bad.
Right. I
Yeah.
finally found a black gynecologist and she's retiring. I was like, wait, I've only been working with you for 2 years. Like, I don't know that. Hey, well, my time is up. I get you want to live your life, sis, but no. That's sad. It doesn't feel good to know when you go into these places and these spaces, they have these implicit bias in the back of their head. And they're not trying to hear you. And then don't sass mouth them. Don't be too articulate.
So yeah, let me interject real quick, sis, because when you do that, this is what they do. There's an article that actually me and you were reading this week. You and I, the article we shared. That article actually states that when we do question things, or if we, push back, or we want further testing, they often put in their notes that we're difficult and non-compliant. Which affects us getting healthcare insurance and everything. It affects a lot of different things. It affects just the way they treat you all around. So yeah, that's what they do. They put in their notes that we're non-compliant or we're difficult patients, and that So therefore, that also feeds the implicit bias, where they won't even offer certain treatments or look at certain diagnoses because of that.
Yeah, and that sucks. It's not.
It does suck.
Okay. And another thing that I don't know if you came across or anyone is our environment and our adverse childhood experiences, or our ACEs, contribute to our health issues that we are more likely to have. And that goes back to redlining in the neighborhoods, because your environment that you grow up in, if you grow up with your fight or flight always going off because you're hearing gunshots or seeing drive-bys or watching people be murdered in the street, that's an environment thing. Your mom's not home, you've been molested. These are all these things that contribute to your health. You're more likely to get cancer, more likely to suffer from heart disease, diabetes, obesity, based on things that happen to you in your childhood. That too.
Yep, and then
go ahead.
And then on top of that, when you go to get treated for it, you don't get proper treatment for it because of the implicit bias and the racism in healthcare. So it's like a cycle that just keeps going and going.
And it sucks.
It looks like Rob wants to say something so bad, I can tell.
I'm really just listening to the wisdom. But yeah, I mean, I've had issues, myself going to the doctor, the few times that I've had to step into these demonic medical spaces. But yeah, and I've learned, that especially being a big black man, and the intimidation factor of these white doctors, especially the male white doctors that I've dealt with, I always have to kind of get them on my side. I got to crack a joke. I got to make them laugh, and I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to be a fucking clown, but there's a game that you got to play in order to get what you want. So I try to get them on my side, but I've definitely had issues, going to the doctor. For instance, I had an issue, right, where, I was having chest pain, right? This is what I thought, I'm having chest pain, chest issues, so I go to the doctor. This is actually like the 2 months before COVID, to be honest. This was January. And so I go to the doctor, boom, I'm like, what's going on? They bring me in there, do the preliminary test everything. They're like, everything's okay, but go to the hospital just to make sure. The doctor even was like, the main doctor, they brought the main doctor in, older white guy. He's like, I would tell my son, this is what he said. He said, I would tell my son to go to the doctor, right, for this issue. So I'm like, all right, this might be something serious. Let me just do my due diligence. I get to the hospital, go there, and they're like, oh man, this might be a serious issue. We're going to do x-rays. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, boom. Black guy came, black nurse. A guy, he's like, bro, all you have is heartburn. He's like, just take some antacid pills. They're trying to get your money. They're trying to keep you here to get your money to run tests on you and do all the tests that they need to do to get money. Ain't nothing wrong with you. Take some heartburn pills. You're gonna be all right. And so that was just one instance. I had an issue with the dentist who messed up like one side. It's still like not 100% together. I've adjusted over time. I had a tooth removed where they kind of was just rabid, messed up one of my nerves. To this day, it's still affecting me. So these doctors, you really got to go in there with a game plan. You can't just go in there looking like you're defeated, looking like you're gonna hand yourself over to them for them to do whatever they want to do. I've had issues with my daughter where she swallowed something. They trying to take in the ambulance and trying to take, and I'm like going to the ambulance. They're like, nah, we just meet her. I'm like, my daughter's 1 year old at the time. What are you talking about? Like, are you serious? You trying to take my daughter in the ambulance by yourself, a female girl, and not have me in the ambulance? Are you serious? I damn near have to fight these guys to get on the ambulance. Then I get to the hospital, they, taking her to do their rounds. And then I find out they got her in a bed by herself, a 1-year-old girl on a bed by herself. And I had to find it. I was like, man, we out of here. Once I found out once I looked at she was good and, communicated with spirit or whatever, prayed on it, we was out of there. So you definitely have to go into these doctors' office with a game plan. You definitely have to have an ideology where you're thinking for yourself. You definitely got to tap into this and do your own research on what's going on. And for these conditions that you have that are not skeletal and muscular, herbs, there's an herb for everything. Herbs are for the healing of the nature. Herbs are for the healing of the nation. This is in the Bible itself. So we really got to learn how to heal ourselves and how to maintain ourselves. I know everybody wants to eat what they want to eat. I know everybody wants to taste what they want to taste, but there's a side effect to that. Men are dying younger and younger. There's 25-year-old men with erectile dysfunction. I did a reading yesterday for a 25-year-old guy with erectile dysfunction. How the F are you 25 with erectile dysfunction? That's crazy.
Gotta be diet.
And it's diet, drinking lean. He's like, I was drinking lean a lot when I was younger, 16, 17, 18, engaged in
Don't
things
drink
like
no
Karama,
water. Yeah.
Like Karam was saying, engaged in these events that happen within our terrorized community, and a lot of times it's us terrorizing ourselves based on the conditions and the events and the circumstances that happen to us. So we definitely have to get to a point to where we are maintaining our own health, we are maintaining ourselves, and we are actively taking a look at our fitness, a look at our well-being, a look at our diet, and also a look at our mindsets, because the way we think a lot of times puts us in fight or flight, puts us in poison. The things that we're watching, the things put us in fight or flight. The brain doesn't know the difference when you see something between reality or if it's fake. The brain just interprets it as real, and the emotions that you take from it is what's going to be processed in your body and going to produce the biochemicals, whether it's fear, hate, stress, breakup movies, things like that, horror movies, the overindulgence of fight videos, things like that. So we really got to maintain our mental, physical, and spiritual health.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
And emotional. Throw that in there.
And emotional. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So let me real quick get into Margaret Sanger. I want to get into this piece. So we're going to go back to, I'm just going to start at the beginning of her publishing her birth control report in 1917. So she published this report back then in 1917, and it's called the Birth Control Review. So in this report, she regularly published pro-eugenics articles from eugenicist Ernest Rudin. And for people who don't know that, this is a little history lesson for people who don't know who he is. He he served under Adolf Hitler as his director of sterilization in Nazi Germany. For a lot of people who don't know the history of this, after the war, a lot of those Nazi Germany scientists came to America as a part of an operation. And these folks were employed by the government, and they were employed in different services and branches, and put to work. And basically, so there you have it. I mean, I know that might be a bomb that need to be dropped on that. I think that's a history that a lot of people don't know about. So Yeah, so basically she published a lot of his a lot of his work in her review. Also, I want to go into the data of her of Planned Parenthood as we come into the new age to show you how that bridges here. So, data from the 2010 census shows that Planned Parenthood strategically placed their abortion facilities in locations that target Black communities. 62% of Planned Parenthoods are within 2 miles walking distance of highly populated African American neighborhoods. And another statistic is that Black women make up 41% of abortions, but we only make up 18% of the U.S. population. So that's pretty staggering number. It really speaks to the population control by the use of eugenics, and it really just shows you the history of implicit bias too, and the history of how we've come through the centuries. We first looked at the early 17th century when we came over on the slave ships. We weren't treated then. And then into the early 19th century and into the 18th century, different torture mechanisms and things. Into the 19th century, where we get into sterilization, phrenology, sterilization, and now eugenics. So these like three major things, which are still going on today, can be attributed to the depopulation, really, of Black America, really of the planet. Period. Because one thing about it. You dig a grave for somebody else, you might just wind up in it yourself. I think Lauryn Hill said that in her most recent lyrics with Nas. And it's an old saying. So, yeah, that's true. So, they do all this against us, but a lot of it backfired on their own population, where their own population is, basically being affected by it. But obviously, we're affected more disproportionately than they are. So I just say that to say, be careful, what you do to someone, because it might end up backfiring on you. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that in perspective and get you guys input on Margaret Sanger, her work, and this ridiculous claim that she. Yeah, it's a ridiculous claim that
Right
she's
down the
like some
street.
pioneer, some feminist pioneer. But I mean,
Planned
for
Parenthood.
who?
Planned Parenthood is.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Tacoma, Washington. Google it, and I live on the hilltop. Bang bang crip crip, right? That's what it was known for. In late 80s, 90s, bang bang crip crip, shoot 'em up, all that. This is the hood. You can come get your dope here, yada yada yada, right? So I'm on the hilltop. I'm on the gentrified hilltop. So it's been gentrified. They got the light rail coming. However, I promise you, I wish I was on my phone and would go outside and go walk. Right here to my right, there is Cascade abortion clinic on the other side of the apartments. And then if I go out and go to my left and hit to the corner at the corner store, behind the corner store, there's Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood moved from 9th and L down here to this other medical facility once it got opened up. But it's always been in the hood. I have a 25-year-old son, and when I found out I was pregnant with him, I didn't have medical insurance, but I thought I had a bladder infection. So I went where I was told and taught was for me because I don't have medical insurance, right? So I go in there, I'm like, oh, well, no, I'm pregnant. But I don't have medical insurance. I think I have a bladder infection, yada, yada, yada. Do you know how many times that lady tried to impress upon me to murder my son? I'm going to say it like that because he's 25. He's here now. He's the father of my granddaughter. You know what I'm saying? She tried multiple times. She tried to get me, well, we do offer abortion services as well. I said, yeah, no, duh. But what I told you I came here for. Well, if you ever if you think about it, bitch, what? Excuse my language for the show. But, what do you mean if I think about it? Because what they do learning, they use embryos and fetuses and all of that aborted fetus tissue for all types of different medicines and hair products and different things like that. But she was so adamant to me to murder my baby because you were so young. And then let's flip that coin. Then there's the crisis pregnancy centers that are located and oftentimes located in the hood, where then they'll adopt your baby. They'll take your little Black baby instead of you aborting it. We'd rather you do that, and we'll show you all the documentation and try and fear you out of aborting and fear you into letting us adopt and take your little Black baby out of the Black community, right? But going back to Margaret Sanger, Maafa 21 is an amazing documentary. You can find it on YouTube that talks about her. That's where I originally learned about eugenics. And Margaret Sanger was from that documentary about 10 or 15 years ago. But I get it. If in an ideal world, I'd want a place where everybody look like me, look similar to me. I still, in one of my pipe dreams, is a compound where we all look alike, we all move alike, we all eat. So, you know what I'm saying? Like-minded individuals. So, I mean, I understand in a way where she's come. I get it, but I don't need to wipe out white folks. I ain't gonna say it out loud anyway. I don't need to wipe out white folks in order to get that. I don't need to hinder their growth or prove I'm superior. I know it. Sorry, no offense, but it's something that I'm already aware of, and they are too, which is why they're often intimidated when I enter rooms, when I speak on mics, when I open my mouth, when I make a look, when I go into their metaphysical stores and I just stand. They all, hi, hello, I get back up off my energy. I'm in there like, get off me. Because they want what we have. And if they can use our dead babies, embryos to get it, if they can drink our blood, eat our flesh, just saying, man, let's call a spade a spade. They do all that weird ritual stuff to have more power. That's what they're going to do. And they're starting to do it more and more in plain sight. Serena Williams, when she had her baby, when she had her daughter, she's the best Black woman known to man. They all like Serena Williams, don't they? She was even mistreated as a Black woman, not believed. When she knew, I need you to give me this and this, put me in a CAT scan, and bop, I know this feeling. Oh, you're fine. She almost died after she had that little baby, but I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah,
go ahead, Rob.
They want those healer cells, they want those Henrietta Lacks cells, those immortal cells. So a lot of the
Rob
work
is always jumping me. I get it, Rob. Get it, Rob.
I just heard.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother. I was just saying, you jump right into the next topic. Perfect segue. Go ahead, brother. Bring it out. Bring out the cells, because that's our next topic. Bring it out.
Yeah, they want those healer cells. The thing about cells that a lot of people don't know is cells have been your cells have been here since the beginning of time. Like through cellular division, cells don't die. They don't die. When you die, your cells are still existing and they still passed on. But the key with these Henrietta Lacks cells is these healer cells, they could do so much and create so many new medicines. And, because of the power of the cells, and of course they got this from the Black woman, the mitochondrial DNA. So a lot of times they do these things and they try to get you to, like, Karama was saying, to abort your baby so they could experiment, so they take the melatonin from the pineal gland, right? So they could steal, you don't know about the organ harvesting and the organ stealing, where there's a lot of Black men especially, but also Black women, where they're stealing the organs and organ harvesting and selling them on a black market, right? So they could use these things for different medical applications, of course, not for us, but for them, and also for ritual purposes, right? Like Karama was saying, to use these for nefarious acts as well. So, the medical industry and the whole Margaret Sanger thing, here in the Bronx, where I'm at right now, 149th Street, 3rd Avenue, Google that. It's still the hood. It's hoodie, hood. And they got a big ass parent plan hood. Big, huge, big sign on the outside with a stand right there, basically come on down. It's like a McDonald's for abortions,
Did you say that was in Harlem, Rob?
Hold on, Rob.
Did you say that was in Harlem? Oh, in the Bronx.
Where's that, Rob, on 3rd Avenue?
149th and 3rd Avenue. So I know if you get off the 2 train and you go up the hill, it's on the left side, and there's a Planned Parenthood right up there.
Going towards Lincoln Hospital.
Going towards Lincoln Hospital. In the
okay, all right. I'll check it out.
Yeah, there's a big Planned Parenthood right there, and that's at Live Star, he knows that's one of the poorest, most impoverished areas in the Bronx. They ain't gentrified that spot yet.
Yeah, I stay about 5 blocks away from there.
Okay, so yeah. And
Yeah.
they got the biggest Planned Parenthood there. So this is the target. This is what they want to get. They want to get your body, they want to get your bones, they want to get your blood, they want to do experiments, they want to see what they could create. They even talk about using melanin polymers to coat the outside of space shuttles, new shuttles that are going out because of its resistance to heat when it goes into orbit and when it returns, so that they can travel faster and deep into the deeper recesses of space. So yeah, like I said, we really got to be on point with what's going on. And also, I want to just bring this up real quick. We also in the media, like if you watch the movie Django Unchained, right? Django, they also allude in that movie, Quentin Tarantino, in a slick way, alludes to phrenology as being a reason why Django was the 1 in 1,000 Black Negro. People didn't really get it, right? But the and I believe he really believes that, because why would he include it in the screenplay of his film, and nobody really caught it. But when they had what's his name, the guy in Titanic, I forgot his name, the
Leonardo
actor.
DiCaprio.
I can see him right now.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
And he was, yes, thank you, Karam. He was playing the slave master, and that's what he was talking about. He was talking about the size of the skull and how there's a little piece of the skull that Black people have that's smaller, alluding to phrenology. And people didn't really catch it. But yeah, he was basically saying that there's only like one of us and the rest of us are just trash, Negroes, niggas, basically, and there's only a few of us that are special and the rest of us aren't. That's really kind of one of the main themes of the movie, besides the whole, him capturing the woman, which is a basic, romance type of Western story. But that was coupled with them. So yeah, it's very important that we, maintain ourselves, take care of our children, the next generation, educate them about what's going on, educate them on how to approach the medical system, how to approach people and nurses and doctors, how to speak up for themselves, how to assert themselves, and also how to finesse them, how to use charm. Charm is part of our nature, charm is part of our essence. And we got to use that magic of charm as well when we go into this, because you don't want them to just paint you as aggressive and paint you as an irritant. And then they're going to treat you even worse, and not compliant, So you gotta, also use some charm as well. And from my perspective.
Dope. So let's move into the Henrietta Lex cell, since Rob did bring it up. So what I wanted to mention toward that is that her cells did help to develop the polio vaccine, different cures for cancer, and helped with AIDS research. But her cells were taken without her consent, without her family's consent, because she was post-mortem. So without her family's consent. And it just really proves, it really just adds on to all of the different things that are done to us. I want to go ahead and also bring up, obviously, the Tuskegee experiment, because that's one of the most influential impacts that were against our community. In the 1930s, the U.S. Public Health Service did an experiment with the Tuskegee Airmen, and obviously these people, they injected them with syphilis, and they just let them go into their communities and live and inject everyone else that they're dealing with. And I mean, this is really something that just continues to impact our community to this day. It's one of the biggest reasons of the mistrust that we do have in the healthcare community. It's one of the biggest reasons that people look at as a factor to mistrust for our mistrust of the healthcare community with good validation. Because obviously that was very horrific and heinous. I want to go ahead and move right into the early 21st century, where the AIDS epidemic came on the scene, because all of this stuff is just relates back to the disparate treatment that's given to us. So Black America was 10 times more likely than whites, and nearly 3 times more likely than Latinos to have AIDS. So, that was another depopulation, factor that they used. And not only that, not giving us the same treatment, not offering the same treatment that was given to white counterparts, things like that, not recognizing when we had specific pain and specific complaints, labeling this as non-compliant, and it's hard to work with. So, does anybody want to chime in on those different those few extra added things, the Henrietta Lacks cells, the Tuskegee Experiment, and then the AIDS epidemic that's bringing us right into the 21st century?
No matter how hard they try, they can't stop us now. They could do crack in the community. They could put AIDS in the community. They could put lean, dope, heroin, all that. They're not going to stop.
We're still here, baby.
We're still here. And in fact, their numbers are dwindling. I want to read this real quick because I know, we're about to end the panel. I want to read out of this book real quick. There's a company that's been pumping, that whole, pow pow in the arms of us. And this company is Pfizer. So it said during the height of 1996 meningitis epidemic, for example, scientists offered Pfizer's experimental drug Trovan, fluoxetine, to terrify patients in Kano, Nigeria. By the time the experiment ended, 200 children were left severely disabled, and 11 were dead. These are two different experiments. In 2001, at least 211 Nigerian parents sued New York-based Pfizer Inc., alleging that non-PDA approved experiments had killed or injured their children, and that Pfizer failed to obtain the approval from local leaders, and the pharmaceutical giant failed to administer standard therapies. So, and we could continue to go on. There's a whole nother chapter with another experiment, but I just want to say, please be careful. There's going to be another wave that Fauci's already talking about that's going to come in the winter. Why are they saying it's going to come in the fall? I'm sorry, not the winter, the fall, because they know people are not going to adjust their diet. People are not going to start taking citrus and these different type of juices, cranberries, to drain their body and prepare for the changing seasons. So please be mindful of what's going on. Please be mindful when the seasons change, your diet has to change. Look into different therapeutics and different ways to shift and adjust your body when the seasons change, because you will be susceptible to these different things that's happening. We got these towers that start with a 5 and end with the letter G for God, right? That's putting out different frequencies in the air right now that's affecting our cells in our body. So we want to tap into music, different sounds. 40 hertz is a great one to get your focus in, but there's also other ones for different things. You can look them up easily on YouTube, right? So I just want to tap into some of that to tell you that these companies that are doing things have been doing things, and we don't know because we're not educated.
Facts,
but we know about Will Smith and Jada very well.
Frequency generator.
What's that, sis? Is that an app?
That's a frequency generator. Yeah.
Send me that app, sis.
But it's a whole frequency generator where you can, and go to the certain ones. I meditate every morning, and every now and again I'll use a different frequency when I do it. Or when somebody's giving me shit at work, I'll go on frequency generator in my office like, you don't even know what I'm doing to you.
Yeah, zap them queen. Yeah.
Exactly. Sis, send me that app over. Send that app over to me.
I will for sure.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about Tuskegee. That was 40 years.
40-year experiment. Years. And then real quick before you go further, it was a 40-year experiment, and it didn't. And then not until 1992 did President Clinton was the president that apologized on behalf of the government to the families affected. But it took, but the experiment was from the 30s to the 70s, and it took to into the 90s for them to actually acknowledge it and apologize for it. Not that really does anything,
right?
And that foundation, real quick, that foundation was the precursor to the modern day CDC. The same foundation that did the Tuskegee Experiment is the same foundation that is the CDC today.
Yep, it's the public U.S. Public Health Service. That's how it started.
And they just changed their name. Go ahead, brother. What'd you say live?
So I believe all of them that's doing all this craziness is reptiles. There's a whole different civilization doing this shit. That's what I truly believe, man. I don't think this shit it's really some V shit going on out here, man. Remember that movie? V?
Let's do a show on that.
We need to, cause
I'm serious. Like let's link up and let's do a show on that soon.
You know what we do? We talk about what's going on, but we really don't get into who really behind this shit. Like really, really, really behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like behind the flesh. Like, you know, this just the avatar. What's under the flesh?
Reptilians.
Reptilians, shapeshifters, and all this.
So we could discuss that. That's another topic for another day. But I mean, it all coincides. You know, that's the foundation of it.
Like
so
you heard what like Rob said. He said you heard what Fauci said. We got to get. It's like we right
They're
here.
planning it.
It's like games. Like what's that game they had? Squid Games. They just keep throwing stuff at us.
Yeah.
Damn, they survived.
You don't say the Hunger Games.
Yeah, like damn. Now we want to start a war.
I think.
Start a war now.
Yeah.
This the war. Oh man, it's crazy.
Yeah, they program it. They program your subconscious and they put you in a fear state early. So
yeah, that's what they do.
And the fear state lowers your vibration and period. It puts you in a fight or flight period. It weakens your immune system period. And they keep pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping. I was watching the playoffs and I fell asleep on it on the Brooklyn Nets game and I woke up towards the end. It was a great game, by the way, but I woke up towards the end and I end up watching the news, which I haven't watched in years. But I'm like, let me see what these people are talking about, you know? And I'm horrible. Like, yeah, they still pumping this whole narrative of this whole, you know, this whole poop poop and the whole, you know, that's gonna come. And I'm like, yo, like, come on, like they still. I'm like, because I don't watch the news, so I'm like, yo, they still pumping this narrative on a day-to-day.
They still on that. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Because the war didn't pop off how they wanted to, so they saying, okay, this might not work. Now we got to get back to the jab.
We got to re-strategize.
Remember when the Ukrainian joint was coming up, you ain't hear nothing about no jab.
Not a thing. That's why I thought they moved on. That's why I thought they moved on.
Because that was the next scheme. That was the next theory. The war was the next theory with the oil, but that backfired too because now everything going up and y'all realize, okay, then we're going to need this. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, that didn't work, so now we back to the jab. We back to the jab now.
We got to keep people in fear. They've got to keep us in fear.
Continuous fear.
Continuing. Yeah. And they really get to our children with that, with regards to medical stuff. Here in Washington, your kids can get tested for COVID at school.
Yeah. Here too.
So we don't, we don't have to worry about getting the test because
and get $100.
Take care of them at school.
The kids.
Yeah, they're giving the kids $100 here in New York City.
They're doing too much.
You don't need parental consent, nothing. Just sign the paperwork. Wow. Give you a card with $100.
Wow.
That part's wild.
I want to talk about the AIDS real quick that we had talked about earlier.
Yeah, sure, sis.
And the disparities, and it was just making me think that because of those disparities, there's places like People of Color Against AIDS Network because of the disparities that African Americans, Latinos, Natives, people that weren't white, how they were being treated. Because I remember when AIDS first came out and the little white boy Ryan, I think his name was Ryan, when he died from a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, how they treated that boy. Ooh.
In the
a prince, a king.
An angel. That's how we treating these people, man. Like these people, when a white girl goes missing and shit, it's so crazy. John Bonet, and it's like
the whole world gotta stop.
The whole world gotta stop. It's like these people are angels, but this is the game.
The one lady just got brought to the surface for lying on those Mexican women in California. She had said it she did it herself and was with her ex. She had been with her ex. That's where she was when she got kidnapped. But the Mexican ladies in that community for weeks, for months, for years had been being treated like they were all criminals and possible kidnappers. But the whole time whenever they make it up, It's never a white person that does it. Why don't you make up and say it's a white guy? Why is it always a black or a Hispanic?
Because they know they can get away with that.
That's the narrative. Yeah, they got to keep
Yeah.
that narrative going.
And nobody's going to question it. They'll just believe it.
Right.
That's that implicit bias.
That's that implicit bias. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, bring it around full circle.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, let me get into this real quick. I know the show's coming to a close, but I wanted to get into this digital discrimination because it really brings us into the present day things that are going on in healthcare. And Karama, this speaks to the issue that you had with your son when he was 3 years old and you took him to see about his hip. So digital discrimination, basically in 2019, an algorithm that helps manage healthcare for 200 million people in the U.S. was found to be systematically discriminate against Black people. According to the research published in the Journal of Science, people who self-identified as Black were given lower risk scores by the computer than white counterparts, leading to fewer referrals for medical care. So what you just said about your son, how they didn't want to refer you to to a bone specialist or the hip specialist because he was a little Black boy. Who cares about his hip? He's okay. Let him go. He's strong. Give him some milk. That'll make his groans bow. Like,
and
so
that's
this
not
is
even true.
right. I know, especially not that pus milk they be trying to make you drink. But so basically the computer was given fewer referrals to Black people because their care cost, and on average, basically, like, because we didn't have more access to health care. That was another part of it, because our health care doesn't pay out so much. When you identify as that, you're not getting that referral. Wow. You're not going to get sent to the surgeon. We're going to patch you up right here, let you go about your business. And for a lot of our people who don't speak up for themselves or who may be ignorant to some of this, they're not going to say nothing.
We don't say anything because we get tired. They get tired of having to repeat the same. I work in domestic violence, and something we tell the clients, I stop them. Okay, you know what? I don't need to hear the whole story. I don't want to get you caught up in the repetitiveness of telling the story and feeling all those emotions again. So I say that to say we don't always want to keep going back and saying over and over and over again while we feel this pain here, and now it's radiating over here. It's been 6 months. And well, no, I did that. I did that too. Now I'm just not going to go. Now I'm on the internet looking for natural ways. I'm looking for herbs. I'm looking for babaloos. I'm looking for anybody else who might know something. Dr. Sabi, I'm going to an alkaline, because when I go in and look at these people that look like these palm color people, I go in and ask them or tell them my healthcare disparities. I have a bladder infection over and over. I've been supposed to be going to see a urologist. I'm in the evening. I got a doctor's appointment May 2nd to go back to the doctor. I'm like, why didn't you just send me to the urologist? I keep, lady, this was happening before I came to see you. Like, I'm over. So now I'm like, I'm over. I want a doctor that looks like me so that I can talk to her. And
right.
Be,
so
when I get the Black gynecologist, she was sis. Hey, queen. Okay, sis. Yeah, that's right. Because we were in there having real conversations.
It's a real cultural barrier. It's a real cultural barrier.
Exactly.
It really is. It really is.
And the blessing, Karam, is that she had the mindset of a melanated being. She had that goddess mindset, because it's not just color. You do have melanated doctors, you have melanated nurses that are just as white in the mind. Racism is a program, prejudice is a program. The nigger is a program, American made. So these are all programs, and we all know that there's Black cops that'll do you dirtier. If you lived in the hood, you experienced the police that'll do you dirtier than any white cop ever would. And there's these politicians. We got this dude here in New York, Eric Adams, who might as well be pale skinned himself with those statements and the way he's moving and the way he's operating. He just is you could see the puppet hand up his behind when he talks. Like, I could see the puppet hand up his behind. He's speaking in white speak. Yeah, that we have here in New York. It's crazy. Like, the things he's saying, the things he's doing, he's really destroying the city. and it's going to get worse and worse as time goes by. But I just want to say that, yeah, don't just look at color. Yes, color is an indicator of the skin tone is an indicator of the type of treatment you get, but you want to make sure that they have the mindset of a melanated being and that they're willing to look out for the collective of us, you know, because you could go in there and think, yeah, they black, they're going to help you, and they're going to do you just as dirty and treat you just as racist. And I've had that with
when
female.
You hit them with, hey, brother, I'm not your brother. You be like, oh,
I'm not your brother. And they'll tell you straight up.
They'll tell you straight up.
Straight up. I'm not your brother.
Throw the whole appointment away.
The reason I learned the finesse game, because I've had female black nurses that would discriminate towards me, that were very, you know, oh, you don't need this, oh, you shouldn't, oh, why'd you come here, you know, talking to me all type of crazy, you know. And then I realized, oh, I got to come in here with a different way of approaching these women, you know, because they looking at me just like they looking at me, you know?
And they've been programmed to do so.
That's correct.
All right. So real quick, panel, this has been an excellent show. Real quick, I want you guys to real quick give out your social media handles and talk about any upcoming events or anything that you guys have coming up that you want the people to know about. Go ahead and give that out, and then we go ahead and end the show.
I guess I'll start. Rob Blackstorm, you can find me where my name is right there. You can find me on all the social media platforms. Under that, you can find me on Facebook, Watson Rob. I also have a YouTube channel, Rob Blackstorm. I've been going hard lately, so you're going to see a lot of videos pumping out. I deal with esoteric thought, occultism, metaphysics, current events, and all the good stuff that we need in life. I am your guide to the universe. And I do have some clothing I'm going to be dropping soon. I dropped a little teaser commercial today on my Instagram. So that'll be dropping in about 2 weeks. I'm waiting for some of the samples to come, so that in my size, because I got something that wasn't in my size. So I'm waiting for the samples to come in my size. But yeah, so look out for that. It's going to be metaphysically infused protective seal clothing. So I've never seen anything like that. So it's going to be something unique for the planet when you wear it. I've had a couple people wear the stuff that I designed. They tell me as soon as they put it on, they feel different. So, you know, great stuff that I got coming for the people and for the community. Yeah.
Dope. Go ahead, Karama.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Same as
what you got coming up?
My name is you can find me with that same name on Instagram. That'd probably be the better place. Facebook is where I really act up and my family's at. I got a couple of live shows coming up, but I'm here in Seattle. I don't even know if they'll be streaming. They're literally live on stage. I'm doing a Mother's Day show, and I'm doing a 4-poem share with a group of poets actually up in Fremont Abbey. A brother Jamar Smiles, I think. I'll get that to you. He has a website. He's like this prolific poet and author. Tamika Mallory, David Banner, like he opened up a thing where Tamika Mallory was here, and I know that's where she got her comment from, because he's fire. When he gets on, like, you want to stand up and shout and be like, man, he just, I love this young brother. He's fire. And so I'm collabing with him and his troupe and just getting ready to be coming up. You see, I got me a little mic, about to have a classical podcast. I say classical because it's going to be mostly my voice. I'm not going to be, that way I don't got to be dressed or my hair ain't got to be combed when I decide to record it. We're going to keep it a stack. That's why I'm doing my podcast.
I know that's right, sis. I know that's right. I miss those teleworking days.
Right? Where I can just get up and be recording and do what I do, and then whatever. You don't even know that I was looking busted that day. So yeah, that's coming soon, and all that'll be on my my IG. So, and I'm gonna stay working with you, sis. You know how we do.
Of course. You already know we get it popping. What's up with you, Live? Did I see you put a song out the other day or something? I didn't get a chance to really listen to it or look at it, and then I tried to go back and look for it. But you tell me what's going on with that and where we could find it.
Oh no, what you talking about? The song that I had in my video with my picture?
Maybe, yeah. I thought I saw you promoting something.
That wasn't mine. Those was a guy from upstate called 38 Special.
Oh, I know 38 Special. Yeah, he's dope as hell.
That was him. But my Instagram is welcome to with the number 2, the DA Matrix _live star.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, all right. Salute. I didn't know that was you.
His name.
Yeah, that's me. And I'm just getting back, in the tune of the music thing. So I so shortly I have some new music coming out soon, and we also working on a documentary about my neighborhood too. So I'm gonna be a part of that.
Oh, that's dope. Well, make sure you let me know what's going on with that, and in any way BTV can help. Let me know.
Yeah.
Also, Rob, I want you to well, all you guys send me stuff that you have going on, and I'll post it for you. As a part of promotion. So Rob, send me whatever you got going on with the clothing line. I want to get with you and get some of your content from your YouTube as a how you can put the playlist on the YouTube. I want to kind of connect there so we can all be connected for whatever we have going on. And if I can assist you guys with anything, I'm always here. Thank you guys so much for taking the time tonight. This was B.E.E.C.A.U.S.E, Black Education Empowers, creating all unity, saving everything. When you educate yourself, you're empowering yourself and you're empowering the next generation to do the right thing. That's why we do it. That's why we're here. Thank you so much for the panel, Karima-isms, Ari Blackstorm, Live Star. Thank you for being here, and we out. Peace.
Peace.
Freedom, justice, equality. What I'm gonna talk about. Freedom. What I'm gonna talk about. Justice. Equality. Yeah. Freedom for you and for me.
But when I look at y'all, I see the law. When I look in the mirror, I see the law. Now the question is, what is our law going to do for his nation? What is the earth going to do for their nation? So if you want things to change, if you want things to become better, then you yourself must make these things what happen. All that is caused by you, not by something else. Stop thinking that something is going to cause something to happen. Stop thinking something is going to cause